The biggest story in the Sheena Bora case today, Peter Mukerjea. Indrani Mukerjea's husband now stands accused of the same charges as Indrani herself, and this includes murder, conspiracy to murder, destruction of evidence and suppression of facts. It was an action-packed day in the courtroom, with the CBI demanding custodial interrogation of Peter Mukerjea because he'd been making conflicting statements. Peter's lawyers argued that there was no need for him to have been arrested and that he must be immediately granted bail. India Today's Mumbai bureau takes you inside the CBI courtroom in Mumbai to file this story.
A former media czar, a celebrated corporate honcho, and now Peter Mukerjea is a murder suspect in the investigation of Sheena Bora's killing in 2012. After his arrest on Thursday, Peter Mukerjea will now spend the next 3 days in custody. The murder charge against Peter Mukerjea, the most sensational twist in the Sheena Bora killing.
Sources say CBI suspects that he was also involved in the conspiracy to eliminate Mikhail. During the custodial interrogation, he will also be quizzed on this angle as well.
Peter Mukerjea spent Friday shuttling from the CBI office to court. In a dramatic showdown in court, the CBI claimed that Peter lied to his son Rahul about Sheena's whereabouts, and that the plan to be abroad at the time of the murder was deliberate.
Today they have just said that they want to check whether Peter Mukerjea is part of any conspiracy. Nothing more than that, and they are investigating that.
Peter had so far claimed innocence and even tried to distance himself from Indrani's legal battle. But the husband-wife duo are now embroiled in the same murky murder.
In its charge sheet, CBI has listed the possible causes that led to Sheena Bora's murder. One of the causes stated is the financial transaction that had led to Sheena Bora's murder. Apart from that, they have clearly stated that Indrani had disapproved of the relationship between Rahul Mukerjea and Sheena. There is also a theory of blackmail that has been promulgated by them.
From being the power couple of an aspirational Indian media, the Mukerjeas are both behind bars for a murder most foul. Is Peter's arrest the missing piece of the Sheena puzzle? With Vidya and Atir Khan in Mumbai, Shujoy, India Today.
From the information that is currently available, will the CBI be able to put together a solid enough case against Peter Mukerjea, or has the CBI erred grievously in charging Peter with the same offences as his wife Indrani? Joining me to present Peter Mukerjea's defence in the courtroom, we've got Tanveer Ahmed Mir, we've also got Sanjay Hegde. He'll be able to give us a sense of the CBI's line of argument in this case. Thank you very much, Mr. Hegde, for joining us. I want to start by asking you about the CBI levelling exactly the same charges against Peter Mukerjea as they have against Indrani. Now, do you believe that they have enough reason to believe that Peter Mukerjea is guilty of murder, is guilty of being part of the same conspiracy?
Let's start with what is guilt in the case of murder. If you are a conspirator. Now, if there was an agreement between Peter and Indrani that Sheena Bora had to be done away with, then regardless of where Peter was, even if he was abroad, if there was a prior agreement, then criminal conspiracy
so
and
the
a
only
302.
supposed evidence the CBI has to suggest that Peter was aware of a conspiracy is the 164 statement made before the magistrate by the driver Shamveer Rai. Now, he says that he overheard conversations. Now, this driver's role has been highly dubious from the first day. He's been with the police. He could just as well be singing that tune. Tomorrow he could turn approver, get away and land Peter in trouble before that.
Well, the driver's evidence may be one of the pieces. Now, in addition to the driver's evidence, what I read from the media and other places is that there are call details which indicate that there was heightened calling activity from Peter to Indrani.
But the heightened call activity doesn't mean that he knew about the conspiracy.
No, it does not necessarily prove that he knows only about the conspiracy. But the call details plus the driver's statement plus whatever other evidence that the CBI has, which ties in with the motive. Now, what would be crucial would be what was the motive.
Okay, I'm going to the motive. Let's just one by one. You've had your opening say, Tanveer Ahmed Mir. You've got a driver who's made a statement before the magistrate in which he says he overheard a conversation where it seemed that Peter Mukerjea was aware of the fact that Sheena Bora would be murdered. Now, that's a very damning statement coming from a driver. It's admissible as evidence because he's made it before a magistrate.
Not admissible as evidence at all. A statement under 164 recorded by investigating authorities has never been termed as a substantive evidence before a court of law. It's a statement which can only be used for contradiction and confrontation. So therefore, what the driver is going to say in a court is yet to be known. And as on today, all three are accused in the charge sheet filed by the CBI. The entire case as set up, if Peter is a conspirator, then necessarily there was evidence to suggest that he was in the conspiracy right from the beginning.
There are also heightened call details, much more than regular conversations between husband and wife. That again, CBI believes is circumstantially suspect.
There can be 1,000 reasons for a heightened call activity between a husband and wife for so many reasons. But to allude to say that it's a part of evidence of conspiracy is far from truth. What we have as concrete evidence is a girl murdered in a car by 3 persons.
No, but there is more. Rahul Mukerjea has apparently told the CBI that he was told by Peter that I have spoken to Sheena, she's in the United States. Clearly, when he said this to his son, Peter Mukerjea was lying.
The point is, ultimately, whatever these statements will be, what Rahul will say in the court, whether he's a witness, he's not a witness is yet to be known. The proposition we have today is whether Peter has been rightly arrested at a stage when other accused persons...
Do you think the arrest is wrong?
Absolutely
wrong.
Why
is it wrong?
The arrest is totally wrong because for the purposes of investigation, arrest is the last prerogative of the police. Unfortunately, in India, custody and arrest for the police is opium for a drug addict. Without custody, they're not willing to do anything.
Okay, let Sanjay Hegde respond because the CBI is saying he's being shifty, his statements are contradicting each other and they need to have him in custody to be able to interrogate him. How do you respond? Well, that they shouldn't have arrested him at this stage.
That's a larger question. That's a philosophical question of criminal law in one sense. But under custodial interrogation, what I anticipate the CBI will be doing would be to confront Peter with the driver and with others who have given statements. And Peter in custody may have significant improvement in his memory. That is the normal course of human conduct during investigations. Now, Peter has been mistaken in one sense, in as much as he's been on record in the media. He's been giving contradictory statements right through while the investigation was on. He first held himself out to be a deluded husband who knew nothing. From there on, their story has been...
Yeah, that shows clearly that all this while he's been lying.
This reminds me of what my senior once told me, that if you always tell the truth, you never have to remember what you've said the previous time. This is exactly how investigators break down suspects. You take each statement and then you correlate it. No, but you said this the other day. How do you explain the discrepancy? So when, especially the statement of Rahul, the son, that he told Peter that there's something wrong. Sheena is not around, and Peter tells him, no, she's in the US. I've talked to her.
That makes him a key part of this conspiracy. You can't dismiss this offhand. You've got a father who's lying to his son, telling the son that I've spoken to Sheena, she's in the United States. The son is saying, I've got her passport, she can't be in the United States. Does that not show that he's involved in the conspiracy?
What we cannot lose sight of in the peculiar facts of this case, Rahul, is that after all, at some point of time, for family terms, there was an ardent effort on behalf of the parents to see to it that relationship between Rahul and Sheena is not encouraged. Maybe Peter
No, but
at some
he's
point
lying
of time.
through his teeth.
No, the
He
question
says, I've
here
spoken
is-
to her in the United
question
States. She never went to the United
question is
States.
Here, there can be a possibility of, if there is any truth in this statement, that Peter might have said this to his son to discourage him from having a relationship
Okay,
with
you're
Sheena
saying this
at
could
point
be a
of time.
personal
Secondly,
statement.
it could be a
doesn't
personal
necessarily
statement as
make
well.
Peter complicit in the crime.
Well,
Yes.
what he is saying is that it was a righteous lie, a lie in a right cause. But there's another maxim in criminal law that, you know, falsus in unis is falsus in alteris also. So that if you are false in one thing, you are much more likely to be false in everything. Peter cannot be relied on. Now, every statement ultimately will come down to a question of painstaking investigation and painstaking proof.
In the final part of this face-off, I want to come to the motive. Because and this is something that I'm sure the defense counsel will be building on in court, because the CBI currently believes that there was a flat in Delhi. Now, this could be a flat for a couple of crore rupees, which was the reason for this murder, that Sheena was blackmailing Indrani Mukerjea, and that is what led to this tussle by suggesting that she would expose her publicly. Now, can people who've run companies worth hundreds of crores, who themselves have a lot of money with them, there's no specific amount that we know of, but they have a lot of money with them, could one flat in Delhi be a possible motive? Do you think that's a weak link in the case?
Most unlikely, most disbelievable in the background of the people that we are talking about. And one point we should not forget, Rahul, is that in case you wanted to confront Peter with Indrani, with Sanjeev Khanna, or even Sham Rai, the police officers could have filed an application before the court of learned metropolitan magistrate and
Without arresting him?
No, without arresting him.
No, unless they believe he's complicit in murder, which is what they clearly believe.
If you want to confront, the law permits you that you file an application, and that confrontation could have taken place between the three in the jail itself, in the court premises itself. In order to confront, you don't need to curtail the liberty of a person.
These are people who've owned companies worth hundreds of crores of rupees, and the CBI says, rather incredulously, that there is one flat somewhere in Delhi over which Sheena was blackmailing Indrani. That is what was the instant trigger. Can that be the instant trigger?
That was the trigger, not the entire part of the explosion. The point was that this flat in Vasant Kunj was originally given to Sheena. Then it was taken back. She wanted another flat. After all, she was a young girl of 25, starting off life in Bombay. A flat to her meant security. To get that flat and other security, it is possible that she threatened to expose not only the fact of maternity, but there could be many
it's
other
not so much the flat, Tanveer, as much as it is the fear of being exposed. Here's a woman who's come from Guwahati, suddenly made it big on the scene in Mumbai. She is worried about her image. She's worried about being exposed. She presents someone as her sister, who's actually her daughter. If she feels that the entire edifice that she's built will crumble, she panics. She murders him.
The question is, what does Peter have to do with it? That are we trying to say that because of some flat and because of the potential exposition or Indrani getting exposed, Peter would conspire in the murder of Sheena Bora? Now, this is a proposition that the CBI now, they will have to test this proposition. They'll have to test their prestige. They'll have to test this arrest before a court of law. According to me, they've committed a big blunder in arresting a person after a charge sheet has been filed against the main conspirator.
I'm out of time. Yes.
You must remember that at least on the fact so far, Indrani was capable of taking one ex-husband to murder Sheena. How much control she had over her third husband, that time will tell. And so it is quite complicit. It is quite possible that Peter was complicit in much more.
But that needs to be proven in a court of law. Right now you've got an arrest. This needs to be tested and proven in a court of law. You've heard from the defense. You've heard from a possible prosecution perspective. Thank you very much, Tanveer. Thank you, Sanjay, for joining me on the Newsroom Showdown tonight. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Joining us now on the newsroom is someone who knew the Mukerjeas quite well, a member of the media management industry, Ravina Rajkoli. I remember She was on our show and she on the first day itself said that Peter Mukerjea knows a lot more than he's letting on. Peter is now quite literally in the pan and I have a lot to talk to Ravina about. But before that, let me get you a report on what Indrani Mukerjea told India Today this afternoon. Remember, this is the first public statement from Indrani. Now we've got her daughter Vidhi's SMS as well. In this interview that you're about to see, Indrani Mukerjea says she believes she's being framed.
I have been framed.
For the very first time after the Sheena murder mystery erupted, Indrani Mukerjea broke her silence on India Today.
I have been framed. I have been framed.
Earlier in the day, as Indrani was being taken to court, Indrani chose to bare her face and face the camera. India Today has learnt that Indrani was unaware of her husband Peter's arrest and was shocked to see Peter in court. And in court, judicial custody of Indrani along with 3 other accused was extended till December 3rd. After months of being in custody, the former media baroness has finally come out in the open and claimed innocence. Will Indrani's unmasking lead to unearthing of evidence in the sordid Sheena saga? With Adir Khan, Vidya and Sahil Joshi in Mumbai, Bureau Report, India Today.
Happens on that image that you see. You're seeing it on your screen right now. This is the first time we're seeing Indrani Mukerjea with her face uncovered. So far, each time she's come out into the public, she's always had a cloth covering her face. This time though, her face is completely uncovered. And in that one instance, from the screens that images that you're watching, the cops are trying to cover her face. She feels that there is no reason for her face to be uncovered. I am innocent. I am being framed. That's what Indrani Mukerjea told us. Ravina, as someone who came on the show just as soon as the story broke and said that Peter knew much more than he was letting on, what do you make of Peter now being arrested?
I'm a little bit shocked that he's arrested in such a hurry, but I'm not surprised that he's involved. My point is, I do not believe Peter had a motive to kill someone, but I definitely think he had reason to help cover up a crime. So that's my personal opinion. I do not believe that he's a murderer, and I do not believe that there is a charge of murder on him either. I believe there is a charge of criminal conspiracy. Now, whether that charge holds good or not, we will know on Monday. But I am convinced of his involvement and the fact that he knew what was going on and didn't let on.
Okay, now we're also seeing Indrani Mukerjea this time not cover her face. Every public appearance, court appearance so far had been with her face covered. Now that Peter has been arrested as well, today when she emerges, she has her face completely uncovered and she's telling the cops not to cover her face. What do you make of that? A lot of people told us that this was deliberate, that she's sending a message, that she's feeling more confident now.
Well, it's a good photo opportunity, isn't it? We're all talking about it. You have highlighted it so much on your channel. So I think that's part of the strategy.
Okay, also Vidhi Mukerjea's SMS, and I just want to call that up on our screen right now. Vidhi Mukerjea, in this SMS that she's sending to Sheena, says that something sinister is being planned. They want to get rid of you, and she's saying so on this SMS. It's on page 11 of the CBI chart sheet. That again, Ravina, rather startling, where the younger sister is telling someone who's supposed to be her elder sister that, you know, watch out, you're being targeted. Mom is very angry.
Well, obviously, Mom was prone to be very angry. She used to get angry, and she would maybe do bad things. So, if that was also said in the SMS, then that probably was true. I don't know, but Indrani was known to have a temper, so I don't think much comes from there. I don't know whether that means she was about to murder someone or whether it does.
Now, you knew Indrani. A lot of people who've been following this case have been speaking to the police people who've been interacting with Indrani, say she's held up remarkably well. Despite the kind of adversity she faces, she's been very strong. She's been very confident that she'll be able to get away, and she hasn't broken down at all. anyone slightly weaker would have crumbled by now under these adverse circumstances.
I guess so, but I don't know about that. I'm not an expert on human behavior.
Okay, and tell us, what did you make of the CBI arresting Peter Mukerjea in the way that they did?
Like I said, I think it's a bit sudden, and okay, it's sudden in the sense that it suddenly happened after 1.5 months of alleged questioning or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I would like to focus more on what is this comment that she made, loudly saying, I have been framed. If she's being framed, who is framing her? So is that why the CBI has rushed into the act and asked for his for custodial interrogation to find out if he's involved, or is this just a setup? I don't know. But my sense is that I have been framed is a carefully thought out line.
Carefully thought of line, you think? Thank you very much, Ravina Rajkoli, for joining us on this broadcast. Really appreciate it. Thank you. So what does Indrani Mukerjea have in her mind when she says that she's being framed? What does the Mumbai police make of her first public comment so far? And also, what do they intend to do with Peter Mukerjea now that they have him in custody for the next 4 days? I want to go across to two of our leading correspondents who are covering the story. Atir Khan is joining us, is also Vidya. They've had a very long day. I want to go across first to Vidya. Vidya, in that interview that we did with Indrani Mukerjea, her first since being arrested, she says, I am being framed. You've been speaking to people in the Mumbai police. What do they think? What is Indrani trying to say when she says she's being framed?
Peter, remember, this was the first day that, and Indrani did not know about Peter's arrest. So when the moment she got to know, she came to the court, she got to know that Peter had been arrested, she was shocked. But remember this, the moment she got to know of it, the shock turned into a few other thoughts that probably she had been thinking about, because at the entire conversation that she has with the media personnel is about herself. She does not speak about Peter. She does not say Peter is being framed, Peter को फंसाया जा रहा है. All she says is मुझे फंसाया जा रहा है, I am being framed. So that the entire conversation centers around her, and it's
also very interesting is that Peter hasn't come to meet her even once since she was arrested. Vidhi went and met her mother before she went to Bristol, but Peter hasn't been in even once. He hasn't allowed Mahesh Jethmalani to represent Indrani Mukerjea. A junior counsel in Mahesh's firm is representing Indrani, and therefore clearly the relationship between Indrani and Peter at this time is deeply fractured.
Well, it certainly is. Remember the fact that, Indrani and Peter, it is because of Indrani that Peter is now facing this entire brunt. We do understand that Rahul had been, recording these entire conversations, and Rahul had, since one of those conversations that he had recorded, that conversation has now actually led to Peter's arrest. But he still thinks at the back of his mind that had Indrani not been in his life, probably he would not have seen this situation. So certainly that feeling is still there with Peter.
Okay.
And throughout in the entire the hours that he spent inside the court, we could see that glum face that he had. He looked destroyed. He actually seemed like he hadn't since obviously the CBI had been questioning him.
Okay.
He hadn't slept through the night, and that entirely reflected
Now,
on the persona
Atir Khan,
that we saw today.
Atir Khan, you cover investigative agencies and you understand their tactics well. Now, this is a game cops are known to play. Try and tell the wife that your husband set you up, that he framed you. Try and tell the husband that the wife is culpable, that she kept you in the dark, and try and create discord. Now, these are standard tactics by the prosecution, by the cops, to try and ensure that they get a confession. So far, they haven't succeeded in getting a confession out of Indrani. They've got Peter for the next 4 days. What kind of questions do they intend to ask him?
Well, clearly they are racing against time, and let me tell you, they do not want to waste even a single minute. The moment Peter Mukerjea was brought behind in the Special Task Force office of the CBI, all the senior CBI officers started going inside, and the questioning had started. His son Rahul, along with Peter's brother Gautam, had also been called in for some assistance by the CBI officers. Otherwise, normally they cannot go and meet him since he's in the police custody. So it was happening, and only a little while ago Rahul has just left from the Special Task Force office, and it seems the questioning is going to continue through the night, and it might also start tomorrow early morning. What we are learning is that CBI already knows they have clinching evidence in the form of audio conversation, but they're not sure of it being produced in the court. And the acceptability which it will have in the court. So
no,
they
so
are trying
Atir,
to
there's
build up
one
more
question
evidence,
that's going through the
corroborate
minds of
statement.
everyone who's watching this broadcast. They've accused, the charges that have been leveled in this charge sheet are the same as those of Indrani, which at this time means that Peter Mukerjea is also accused of being a part of the murder. Is that something that they're saying just at this time, or does the CBI actually have evidence to suggest that Peter Mukerjea knew about the fact that a plan before this murder was carried out? Or will they at a later stage distinguish between the level of culpability of Indrani vis-a-vis that of Peter Mukerjea?
Well, absolutely, that is the case, Rahul. What happens in a murder case is that normally the investigative agencies, they slap all the charges against all the accused, and later, as the investigation unfolds, and at the time of filing the charge sheet, it is then that they decide which charges to retain or which to withdraw. Also, there are other options at the time of framing of charges. The judicial officer also takes the call. It also happens at the time of, though all of them are convicted at the same time, but at the time of pronouncement of the quantum of punishment, there's a differentiation. Distinction is made between all the accused, because they do not, naturally all of them do not play the same role. So similarly in this case also, the investigative agency is going to go by elimination. They'll go by elimination, and then gradually, then arrive to conclusion about the culpability of the role played by
very incisive ground reports, these by both Atir and Vidya, being able to capture the atmosphere in the courtroom and what's happening in this trial. Really appreciate it, Atir Khan, Vidya, for joining me on the newsroom tonight. Thank you very much.
जहाँ तक याद आती रहेगी